All right, good afternoon, and welcome everybody to the 10th edition of Applied Physiology Friday, Season 1. We started it 10 weeks ago, and we're wrapping it up today, talking about the middle distance influence. Behind me, you may be wondering, I have the Kenyan flag right there because today is in honor of dedication to two of my really good Kenyan runners that I have had the privilege of coaching and mentoring, Brian Kiprop and David Tao. And they've contributed a lot to my knowledge and understanding of distance running. So today it's for them. So today we're going to be looking at the middle distance influence and how middle distance training is going to impact energy system development in our intermittent sports, or also how can strength and conditioning coaches borrow from middle distance and distance training to develop their athletes' energy systems. Again, looking at that alactic, lactic, aerobic that we've been talking about for the last 10 weeks. In terms of middle distance running, if you watch a middle distance race, unfortunately, the Olympics will not be going on this year. They'll be going on next year. So when you watch them, when you watch an 800, 1500, 5K, 10K marathon, in those events, in the middle distance and distance events, the winner is the one who slows down the least. Now, apologies to David Tao. He is a steeplechaser by trade, and the steeplechase 2-mile run over 36 barriers and water jumps. And that's a whole different animal when it comes to looking at energy system development and fitness. So for today, we'll be looking at the flat events, 8, 15, 5, 10 marathon. So in our middle distance events and our distance events, the winner is going to be the one who slows down the least. This translates to speed endurance. Now, if we're looking at a football player and you have a football player who has great track speed, they run a 4.1, a 4.2 40, but they can only do that once. They're not going to be that effective on the football field, because when you take a look at a quality wide receiver, they're going to see 20, 30, 40 snaps a game. So they're going to have to run that 40, 20, 30, 40 times within the context of a game. That is going to be speed endurance. The next thing we take a look at with speed endurance is it's going to be predicated on aerobic capacity, because aerobic capacity is what allows the alactic system to reload and recharge. If I have an athlete that is very, very strong alactically, that's that 0 to 8, 0 to 10 seconds, maximum intent, maximum velocity, maximum power, maximum speed, and then we rest for 55 seconds, allow the aerobic system to recharge the alactic system, we're going to be able to come back and we're going to be able to produce, again, maximal power with intent. However, we're going to run into problems when we don't get that full recovery. That's where this aerobic capacity comes in. The other thing with our middle distance runners and our distance runners is that they regularly deal with high levels of lactate. If you look at the blood lactate profile of a hockey player as the game goes on, starting out in the first period, they're flying, they're buzzing around. There's not a lot of lactate being built. As the game progresses, you go into cardiac drift, so heart rate is going to naturally increase. The body is going to trend more toward the lactate system away from the alactic system. So the athlete, the hockey player that can deal with high levels of lactate late in the game are going to be the ones that are going to see the majority of the ice time. So some applications of middle distance training to our intermittent sport energy system development. When we're talking about intermittent sports, main ones that come to mind, in this mind here, hockey, lacrosse, box lacrosse. And then we can go down the list, we can look at soccer, field hockey, get into football in there as well. But what we're looking at with an intermittent sport is one where there's a burst and then there's a stop. There's a start, a run, a stop. So with the lactate pathway late in games, as I talked about a minute ago, our alactic aerobic pathway is going to erode, and it's not going to have the opportunity to fully regenerate. It could be because my athlete is getting tired. The other thing that could cause this is a coaching decision, a strategic decision. Last week we talked about technical, tactical, and strength and conditioning as the three components of sport success. So the coach makes a tactical decision to shorten up his bench. If it's a hockey, in hockey parlance, we're not gonna roll 4 lines. We're gonna roll 3 lines. Or if we have our defensive pairs, our top 2, they're gonna play 30 minutes, 35 minutes. You see this a lot in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So our coaches are going to shorten up their rotations, giving the minutes to the highly skilled players. And then what's going to happen is their alactic aerobic pathways are going to fade off, and it's going to become more dependent upon that lactic system. The other thing that's going to happen as we get tired, our body is going to become less able to reload on the fly. This is something I learned from my days down at Manley Fieldhouse, Syracuse University. We would train our lacrosse guys in the 400-yard runs to reload on the fly. In other words, we're going to go, if we're doing 400s, we're going to go 80 yards full gas, float for 20 yards, hit it, turn around, 80 yards full gas, float, hit it, turn around, come back. So a little float allows the energy systems to reload on the fly. While we're still moving, we're just dialing it back just a little bit. And then the other thing that's going to happen with our intermittent sports in ESD is that intensity is going to be our driver. Intensity is what drives the train. So our body is going to want to maintain intensity at all costs, even if it means moving into that lactic pathway. These are some the keys for the reasons why we want to develop that aerobic pathway. We've talked about the whys. Now let's talk about the wherefores. Borrowing from our runners. If you watch a really good 800-meter race, if you're really getting into this today, I'm glad. I hope I lit the spark. Google some of Nick Symmonds' races on YouTube and watch how he runs. He runs it from the back. Also, another good one to Google, Dave Waddle, 1972 Olympics. He was dead last through the first 500 meters of the 800, and then he went from last to first, won the gold. So when we take a look at that 800 meters, an 800 in a competitive 8, the first lap is going to be my speed lap. The second lap is going to be my aerobic lap. For my aspiring strength coaches, think about this. We can develop speed all we want, but we need that endurance component. The endurance component is what comes in, believe it or not, on the back end. So developing the aerobic capacity for the back end of the game or the back end of the race. Another example, looking at our 1,500-meter runners or our milers, the 1,500 metric mile, 3 3/4 laps around your local high school track. The best kickers or the best closers in the parlance of horse racing also have the best 5K times. So a 5K, 3.1 miles, 12.5 laps around the high school track. the 5K gives us that aerobic support. The 5K gives us that aerobic power. And then our best 1500 meter runners are able to hit the speed because they're working at a lower percentage of their intensity as they cover the first 3 laps of the mile or of the 1500. So building that aerobic capacity makes the athlete faster. It sounds counterintuitive, but when you break it down and you look at where do I want to be my fastest? Do I want to be my fastest in the beginning? I'm going to do a ton of speed. Do I want to be my fastest at the end? I'm going to do aerobic capacity and focus on speed endurance. And an example of this, I learned this from Matt Centro at Senior. I had the opportunity, more than a few years ago, to sit down with Coach Centro and pick his brains for, it was about an hour. We were at a track meet over at State. They had the NCAA regional meet there, and me and Centro were up in the bleachers talking, and they actually turned the lights off on us because it was time to go. But and so me and Coach Centro were talking about his philosophy. Now, quick backstory on Coach Centro. If you are a track aficionado or an athletic aficionado in general, you've heard the name Steve Prefontaine. And Steve Prefontaine is the James Dean of American distance running. He's the guy whose life ended tragically earlier than he never did reach his full peak. Or we could say that James Dean was the Steve Prefontaine, if we want to get metaphysical. But getting back to Centro is the guy that broke all of Prefontaine's records. So as good as Pre was, Centro was better. So the Matt Centrowitz influence. What Centro does in his coaching is he takes the workouts that 5K, 10K runners do during their competitive or their peaking cycle, and then he uses that to build endurance for the 800 and 1500 meter runners during their GPP, general physical preparation, or specific physical preparation phases. What he's doing is getting away from long, slow distance. The principle of specificity says you become what you train for. If you want to run long and slow, run long and slow. If you want to run long and fast, practice running long and fast and break it up into little tiny segments. One of Centro's favorite workouts that he learned when he ran for Oregon for Bill Dellinger is a workout called the mile breakdown. In the mile breakdown, you run a mile, jog a quarter for a rest, run 3/4 of a mile, jog a quarter for a rest, run a half mile, jog a quarter mile for a rest, and then run a quarter mile and then go cool down. The mile breakdown, how are you going to use this? Well, when Centro is coaching his 800 meter runners and his 1500 meter runners, his middle distance guys, he puts this workout in the GPP, SPP phase as a base builder. When he's coaching his 5K, 10K guys, his 3-milers, 6-milers, he uses this as a workout in the competitive block. When he's coaching his marathoners, 26.2 miles, he'll use this workout as a peaking workout. So it's the same workout. It's a mile breakdown, but we're just using it at different points throughout the season, throughout the year, to meet the needs of our athletes, whatever our specific needs of our athletes are. Another workout, this is one of my favorites, and this workout here was one of the workouts that really drew me to the interplay between middle distance training and lacrosse training, hockey training, that high lactate, intermittent efforts. So it's 3 by 400 meters. And one of my pro lacrosse guys that I coached back in the day when he was playing Major League Lacrosse, we would do this workout on Tuesdays, about on a Tuesday about 3 weeks out from a game. So we're not quite in our competitive. We're coming out of our SPP, specific physical prep, but it's 3 by 400 meters, and it's going to be full gas. So when I say full gas, I mean, if we're looking at our polar data, we're going to be deep, deep, deep red, high in that red zone after about 25, 30 seconds of running. These runs are going to take under, for my MLL guy, he was doing them in under 70 seconds. For my 800 guys, for my competitive 800 guys at the D1 level, they're running these in 54, 55. So we're spiking that lactate real early in the rep. About 150 meters in, you're deep red and climbing on the polar data. That's what it means to be full gas. You want to be building up that lactate. You want to feel that lactate burn. One of my tricks is if I can feel it here, if it feels like there's fire right here, that's what I want to be. That's where I want to be. That's some sensory data. The next thing we're doing is taking full recovery between repeats. I'm going to let my heart rate drop all the way down to 99. I'm going to let that lactate fully clear my body, precipitate out of the muscles, into the blood, ship it off to the liver, let my heart rate recover, let it come down to that pre-bout homeostasis, and then we hit it again. This is again, we've talked about this through the previous 9 Applied Physiology Fridays. And it's a little bit of a departure from that work to rest doctrine. It's a more individual response. Let that heart rate drop down to below green, let it drop into the blue zone, and then bam, we go again. Let that heart fall out of tachycardia. So our workout is 3 by 400. How are we going to do it? Well, for an 800 meter runner, I'm using this in my competitive, in my peaking cycles. About 10 days out from a big race, if I have a big Masters 800 meter race, I'm going for a championship, I'm going for a time, I'm going to do this workout the Tuesday before. So if the race is on the 14th, I'm going to do this, say, on the 2nd, 3rd, however that would work out on a Tuesday. It would be like the 2nd. And then we're ready to go. 10 to 12 days out. As a Masters athlete, I also know I need a little bit more recovery. If I was working with an 800 meter guy and we have Saturday off, we're not racing, we would do this on Thursday. And then the following Saturday, we would have our big race. So this is our big stimulus. I'm going to create fatigue. I'm going to create high internal and external load. I can take this exact same workout, 3 by 400, full gas, full recovery between efforts, and use it to develop a lacrosse player, especially a midfielder. The midfielders are the middle distance runners of the lacrosse world. They're running up and down the field. A couple weeks back, I posted up on Instagram. It was 3 weeks to go. I gave an homage shout out to Roy Colsey. I worked with Roy. It was All-America, 4-time All-America at the Cuse, and I was one of his GAs. And I was training for the 92 Olympic trials at the time. And Roy said to me, "Hey, man, I wish somebody put a lacrosse stick in your hands because you'd make a great midfielder. You can run all day." And that was one of the sparks that got me thinking and linking 800 and lacrosse. In lacrosse, we're going to do 3 by 400 in our GPP or SPP phase once a week. Because in GPP and SPP, we're trying to build work capacity. My options for doing this, Monday, I can do it. If I were coaching a team, I would either do it on Mondays or I would do it on Fridays. And if we're going to do this once a week, I'll let my athletes know, hey, every Monday we're on the line. We're doing this workout, or every Friday we're doing it. We're going to be on the line. The reason why I pick Mondays and Fridays is on Mondays, one of my students, and he's gone on to become a really good colleague of mine, really good friend. Shout out Mike Washington, Florida A&M. I had him as an undergrad. I had him as a grad student, and now he was coach of the year up in Atlanta a couple of years ago. And he taught me the importance of giving a hard workout on Mondays to run the weekend out of my athletes. If I have athletes, if I have a team in GPP, general physical prep, so we're 3 months out from the season or more, every Monday we're doing 3x400. This is our main set, so they know, hey, I can't be out that late on Saturday and Sunday, because Monday we got this as a workout every Monday. And just real quick digression, I always tell my athletes that Saturday night is the enemy of Monday morning. Go out too late on Saturday night, that messes up the biological clock for Sunday, and it disrupts the circadian rhythm. And so Monday, you're going to be flat. By programming this workout on Mondays, every Monday, I'm going to run the weekend out of the athletes. Maybe I'm getting them to be a little bit more sensible on Saturday night. I could also program this workout on Fridays. Programming it on Fridays is going to encourage the athletes to close the week out strong, and it's also going to prevent the athlete from mailing in Fridays. And some of the athletes I work with, they're really good Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday they just kind of go off on their own planet. If we're giving them something hard, this is hard, it's fast, and it's the slide just jumped on me. So this workout is hard, the workout is fast, and then they're out of there. All I need, folks, is half an hour, and we're done. And that's going to prevent the mailing it in effect. So we have reached the final slide. One more quick story before I go. 2 years ago, I was out in Seattle for the Candlebox 25th anniversary reunion shows. 2 nights at the Paramount. Last night, a good friend of mine, lead singer Kevin Martin, comes out and does a little bit of an a cappella of Frank Sinatra's I Did It My Way. I will not do that for you, but that song has been running. Kevin's rendition of I Did It My Way has been inspiring me for this week to put this one together for you. And also at the show, Kevin reprised a little bit of the Doors, This Is the End. And he says, this is the end, not even close. So we have reached the end of week 10 of season 1. Get in contact with me, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, at RunBikeDoc. Email me, runbikedoc@gmail.com. You want to get any of the back episodes, there will be 10 up plus some bonus episodes. Just go to YouTube, hit Doc Hickey, bam, there you are. Visit my website, runbikedoc.com. It's got my Twitter feed on there, so you can actually scroll in and get to the YouTube through the Twitter if you are that tech savvy. I thank everybody for coming, for inspiring me to get this done. It's been a real good journey, and for everybody out there in YouTube land, keep on keeping on. That's all I got.